Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's just jump right in, because today we're unpacking what might actually be the construction industry's most expensive mistake. Seriously, it happens every single day on job sites all over the world, and it just wreaks havoc on productivity. We're talking about the hidden pitfalls of leadership right there on the ground level, and we're going to completely rethink the role of the construction foreman. So here's a question for you. Why does promoting your best worker often completely ruin your crew? It feels totally backward, right? I mean, you'd naturally assume that the person who is the absolute best at doing the job should be the one leading the team doing the job. But well, this brings us to a massive paradox, something we call the promotion trap. Because by rewarding top performers with a shiny new leadership title, companies are, very frequently, setting up their absolute best people for a spectacular failure. Just think about your best pipe layer or your top operator for a second. They've got incredible technical skills, right? Off the charts individual output. But a foreman needs to excel at communication, at people management, and at maximizing the entire team's output. You look at these two things side by side and you realize they aren't just slightly different responsibilities. They are completely different jobs. Technical skill and leadership are literally two totally different worlds. Section 1. The promotion trap. So, what is a foreman, really? Well, at its core, the job is basically people management and communication wearing a hard hat. But companies constantly take their best digger, a guy or gal who is used to focusing strictly on their own machine, their own dirt, and suddenly, bam, they expect them to be a project manager, a diplomat, and, let's be real, sometimes an uncertified crew therapist. And guess how much preparation they actually receive for this massive career shift? Zero. A big, bold zero. That is literally the amount of leadership training most new foremen get. Nobody sits them down and trains them for the communication side of things. Instead, the strongest individual performer just gets handed a crew and is basically told, hey, go figure it out. So they have to learn leadership the absolute hardest way possible, on the clock and entirely at the company's expense. Which leads us to Section 2, the real foreman wall. A truly successful day starts right here, with what's called a toolbox talk. And look, this isn't just some casual morning chat over coffee. This is the true starting line of the day. It happens before a single person even touches a piece of equipment. The foreman has to cover safety, map out the day's plan, and, this is crucial, strategically assign tasks based on who is actually good at what, not just whoever happens to be standing closest. Basically, a foreman proves their worth before a single engine even turns over. If you're a business owner, this quick 15-minute meeting is where your daily profit is literally made or lost. Now let's just look at a rapid-fire day in the life. 7 a.m. rolls around, toolbox talk, and task assignment. You're coordinating the operator, the pipe layer, the grade man, and tracking material deliveries. All good, right? But then it hits 9 a.m. Boom! You hit a sudden utility conflict, or maybe a crew member no-shows, or the weather suddenly turns on you. The entire plan has to be rebuilt on the fly without tanking the whole day. By 10 a.m., you're already having to check if the day is won or lost. A good foreman has to adapt instantly when the ground simply refuses to cooperate. I really want to highlight that 10 a.m. check-in, though, because that brings us to pace and productivity. This completely illustrates how a foreman has to think. You see, pace is a real-time metric. It's how fast the work is being completed against the master schedule, and it absolutely must be tracked all day long. If a foreman waits until the end of the shift to look back and see how much got done, man, it's way too late. A minor morning delay has already ruined the entire week's schedule. Okay, moving to Section 3, core leadership skills. To survive all that chaos we just talked about, this toolkit requires strategic management, not just raw muscle. You need to be able to read people, so you can assign roles based on their actual skill and reliability, not just who has the most seniority. You need real-time problem solving for when, the ground just opens up unexpectedly. You've got to have enough technical literacy across all the different trades to catch expensive mistakes early. And, crucially, conflict resolution, because I promise you, crew friction kills output way faster than bad weather ever could. Honestly, the ultimate skill of a truly great foreman is what we call two-way translation. It's a brilliant concept. They are managing this constant, never-ending communication loop. On one end, they're translating the superintendent's big, broad plan down into specific, bite-sized crew instructions. And on the flip side, they're translating the messy, unpredictable reality of the dirt up into a clear, actionable report for that superintendent. Let's look at Section 4, Common Foreman Mistakes. Now, let's explore the dark side of this. Here is a classic cascade of failure that we see all the time. Step 1. Micromanaging instead of delegating. An untrained foreman tries to personally do everyone's job, mostly because, well, that's what made them successful in the past, right? But doing that physically caps the entire crew's output to what one single person can do. It's crazy. Then comes step 2. Sitting on a problem way too long instead of escalating it to the superintendent, just kind of crossing their fingers and hoping it magically resolves itself. Which leads to step 3. Because it almost never resolves itself, the problem surfaces later, and fixing it later comes at a much, much higher cost. Another massive, massive mistake is failing to secure crew buy-in. Buy-in is that golden extra effort you get from a crew on a really hard day. And how do you actually get it? By giving them the why behind a task, not just the what. If a foreman is just out there barking orders without ever explaining the overall goal, the crew isn't going to understand the mission. And if they don't understand it, they simply won't fight to achieve it when things get tough. And then there's this fatal error right here, playing favorites. Listen, playing favorites kills crew trust faster than absolutely anything else on a job site. It's a total culture killer. If a crew doesn't trust their foreman, guess what happens? They stop communicating. They will actively hide problems until those tiny little issues mutate into incredibly expensive disasters. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, closing the leadership gap. It is time to dismantle some of the industry's most stubborn myths. First up, the myth that the best tradesman naturally makes the best foreman. The reality? Some of the absolute best foremen in the entire industry are actually not the most technically gifted people on the crew. Not at all. Instead, they are simply the best communicators and the best organizers. Like we said earlier, leadership requires an entirely separate skill set from technical mastery. Here's another really widespread myth. A good foreman works physically harder than everyone else on the crew. But the reality is that a truly good foreman ensures the crew's combined output is maximized. And sometimes, managing a site properly means you actually have to step back from the shovel. Now sure, visually, it might look like they're doing less physical work, but by actively managing the flow, the people, and the pace, it yields exponentially higher results for the whole site. And finally, let's talk about the myth that foreman's skill is just this magical thing you either have or you don't. The reality here is basically your crucial takeaway for today's explainer. It is a highly trainable skill set. It's exactly like any other discipline. The men and women who get genuinely good at this role got good at it on purpose. No one is just born a foreman. It's a discipline that can and absolutely must be taught. This gap between what companies actually need and what they train their people for is just massive. Promoting someone with zero preparation is, hands down, the single most common, most expensive mistake in this entire industry. But hey, there is a practical solution available. The Excavation Academy's foreman development content exists precisely to fill this void. It provides the absolute fastest fix available to any business owner who's paying attention. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought today. Take a hard look at your own teams and ask yourself, are you actually training leaders or are you just promoting diggers? It's a tough question, but it challenges the very foundation of how we build teams in this industry. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks you to totally rethink how you approach leadership on your job sites.